Hi guys! Today we're talking about lesson 1-12, which is about patterns. Patterns are all around us, and I do love patterns. In fact, I have a beautiful picture to show you of some patterns. If you kind of get into the retro style, this is also kind of making a comeback, this style. Some beautiful patterns, which we have the green stars alternating with the orange stars. So anyway, we could talk about patterns all day long because they are all around us, and in math, we use patterns a lot too. So we're going to take a quick check-in here on something that maybe you remember from past years. Do these guys look familiar at all to you? Maybe they do. Well, they're called frames and arrows. And let's just review really quick that the little circles here, these are what we call the frames, and they are going to hold our numbers, okay? And the little arrows that you see above these frames come from our arrow rule off to the side here. And the arrow rule is going to tell us what we need to do to go between each frame. So it's a rule. It tells us what to do. Now, I also want to make clear to you that these circles right here are frames, but you can also have different shapes like squares and hexagons. So sometimes you won't always see circles. You might see other shapes, but don't let that throw you off at all. So let's go ahead and take a look at a problem. So this is a pretty standard frame and arrow problem where we have numbers already in the frames and we don't have a rule yet. So this problem is asking us that to find the rule. So what do we need to do to go between each frame? As you can see here, we're starting off with the number 5, then we're decreasing to 4, decreasing to 3, decreasing to 2, decreasing to 1, okay? So I like to look at all of the frames and think to myself, how am I getting from this frame to the next frame? All right, so we identified that we are decreasing by 1 as we go from the 5 to the 4, 4 to the 3, 3 to the 2, and 2 to the 1. So we would say that because we have to subtract 1 from each frame, our rule would be -1. So we would write -1 in the rule box. You don't want to just write 1 because that means that you could be adding 1, multiplying 1, dividing 1. We have to be specific. So we're going to put the little minus sign in front of it. Good job. Let's try another one. So this time, they are going to give you the rule, which is -2, or you're going to subtract 2, and they're going to give you the number to start off with. But you can see this time, they've left a couple of frames blank. Well, the good thing here is that they give you the first number to start off with, okay? So, and we already know that our rule is to subtract 2, so we can guess that by subtracting 2 from 17, we'll get our next number, which would be 15. Doing some mental math here a little bit. Then to check our work, we know that 15 minus 2 would be 13, right? So 13 minus 2 would be 11, 11 minus 2 would be 9, 9 minus 2 would be 7. So then you would fill in your missing numbers. So you can see indeed that to go from each frame with the arrow rule of -2, you're just subtracting 2 between each frame. All right? Let's look at another one. This time, they're giving you a rule, which is to add 3, but they are not giving you the starting number. So they're being a little tricky here, okay? But you can see how 23, if you were to add 3 onto it, goes to 26. So you can see that you could, if you wanted to, start with 23, 26, and then add 3 on to get your next 2 numbers. So just take a second and think about what you would have to do to find out this number. If you said subtract 3, you would be right, because you have to find a number over here that you could add 3 to get to 23. So you could take 23 minus 3 to get your first number here. Let's take a look at the answer for this one. So 20 would be your first number. Adding 3 gets you to 23. Adding 3 gets you to 26. Adding 3 gets you to 29. Adding 3 gets you to 32. And adding 3 more gets you to 35. Here's another example where you're going to see the frames in not just a circular shape. So this time you have to find the rule. They're not giving you the rule this time, and you can see there's also some frames that are missing numbers, okay? So if you get stuck on these problems, I have a couple of tips for you. The first one is to think about the operation that's being used. For example, what is changing between each of the frames? Are the numbers getting bigger as you go down the line? Are they getting smaller? If they're getting bigger, such as the case here, we know that there's probably going to be addition involved. However, there could probably be multiplication too. All right, that's your first tip. That's your first hint. Keep in mind and asking yourself, do the numbers in the pattern get smaller or bigger? Okay? My second rule is to figure out what number is being added or subtracted. This is especially the case when you are not given the rule, okay? Third, my tip to you is to write down the operation and the number above the arrows between the frames before filling out our rule box. So let's do that here. For example, we can look at 62 to 72, and we know that there is an increase of 10 between 62 and 72, right? 62 plus 10 will get you 72. We also know that if we were to go 72 plus 10, that would give us 82 in this box. So 72 plus 10 would give us 82. Oops. We also know that 82 plus 10 will give us 92. All right? So if you don't feel that mental math is your strongest strength or something that you're exceptionally good at, this is a good place to work on it. But please don't be afraid to use your paper to write down your operations when you're trying to figure out the differences between the frames. So anyway, the answer to this one would be a rule of plus 10, which I forgot to fill in the box over here, so I'll fill it in really quick. And you can see that our numbers are increasing by tens all the way up.